Hi, it's Jeff Ondash, and welcome to Out and About. This is where we take you all over the valley and bring you good things for your family to do. And this holiday season, finally, because last year we couldn't do it, Memories of Christmas Past is going to come back to the Arms Museum. Now, I'm sure you've driven up and down Wick Avenue a couple of times, but how many times have you ever actually gone into the Arms Museum to see all the wonderful things that they have to show you? Not only at Christmas time when they put on the Christmas event, but just for a historical platform to any time during the year. This is Bill Lawson, and he knows pretty much about history here in Youngstown and Mahoning Valley than anyone I know. Bill, thanks for coming in and letting us in today.
Well, my pleasure, Jeff.
All right, so we're standing in the Arms home.
Yes.
Who were the Arms? And tell us a little bit about the history of this building, please.
Olive and Wilford Arms built this house in 1905. They were the only family that lived in it until Mrs. Arms passed away in 1960. She left it to Mahoning Valley Historical Society to be our first public museum. We took ownership of it in 1961 and first opened to the public in 1964. Now, the Armses were an old family. Actually, Mrs. Arms was descendant of the Wicks, though her maiden name was Arms as well. Her husband was involved with some industrial concerns, but also was president of Realty Guaranty Trust Company, which developed a lot of Youngstown in the 20th century as far as residential and commercial real estate development.
So they were kind of the ones that helped get everything started in this area.
Well, they were definitely involved in the great boom in the early 20th century, and they were very generous, but also with this house, they created a signature, especially for Mrs. Arms. She was a very creative, artistic person, and this house is of the arts and crafts style. It's a very unique example of arts and crafts architecture and design, and it really reflects her personally more than anything else. And we, as the Historical Society, since the early 1960s, now more than 60 years, are preserving that legacy in this house and its beauty and its historic significance, while also operating a museum here.
So when they donated the land and the home to you, all of the contents, I'm assuming too, because when you come through here and see everything, from the plateware and the silverware to the paintings to pretty much everything that adorns this whole beautiful building or house, that's also theirs too, correct?
Yes, and you come into the museum, in the first floor, you're really stepping into the Arms home. We leave it as period rooms or living spaces that the Arms had when they lived here. The second floor has changed rather dramatically. It's more of a traditional history museum experience, galleries out of the various rooms up there, and we're really focusing on our Historical Society's decorative arts collection on the second floor, which is a huge part of our overall collection and very interesting in its own right in terms of furniture and clothing and costumes and decorative objects for the home. All of that is exhibited up on the second floor. And the basement level, we have the Crispin Hands-On History Gallery, which in normal times there's a lot to do with families and kids using their hands and learning in different ways.
All right. And when exactly did they build this home?
Started in 1904 and completed it in 1905 and moved in that year. And as I said, for 55 years, it was their home. Mr. Arms passed in 1947 and Mrs. Arms in 1960.
Is there any idea of how many not contractors, but craftsmen and carpenters that worked on it? Had to be an extensive amount to build something of this ilk.
Yes, you had a lot of skilled tradesmen involved. Unfortunately, we don't have any records from the building of the house except for original plans and elevations of the household and the carriage house behind here. But definitely in the arts and crafts style, it really focused on hand craftsmanship, and you see that on the exterior with the stonework, you see it with the woodwork and the ironwork here inside the museum, and it's very unique, very beautiful, and very cozy, I might say, for a house that's almost 10,000 square feet. It really feels like home.
Okay, and now this area here back then, I'm just going to guess, was not called Wick Avenue.
Oh yeah.
It was called Wick, and the Wicks lived across the street?
Well, Wick Avenue as a road designation goes back early in Youngstown's history. Now, it started in downtown Youngstown, just a couple of blocks up the hill there, and then extended all the way out in the 19th and early 20th century. But it's named for the Wick family, who through generations had land holdings here and built a lot of the monumental mansion-style homes of the 19th century, which was really the prime for Wick Avenue as a residential district. This house was built in 1905, which was one of the last of the homes built here before things started moving more into commercial and institutional type development in the 20th century. And of course, the most obvious example of that is Youngstown State University, which developed all through from the late 1920s on up till today.
And you had some very famous names living in this area. Right across the street then was the Pollocks, correct?
The Pollock family, which were intermarried with the Wicks, the Hitchcock family, which were intermarried with the Wicks, the Arms. So yes, Baldwins, they all had part of the development and really part of creating this industrial center and the wealth that came from it.
And they all were either industrialists or they had something to do with the real estate holdings in here then.
That's a good point. Those who, and I think they invested in everything: industry, banking, which financed the industrial and real estate development, and of course owning large portions of the land here in the city of Youngstown.
See, there's so much history just in this building alone, let alone all over this valley. If you're, just a little side note here, if you're not a member of the Mahoning Valley Historical Society, you probably should be, because learning about, I grew up on the west side of Youngstown and went to Cheney and then went to YSU, so I'm a Youngstown person and I'll always be that way. But learning about this and seeing this and hearing about all the history, it's really a kind of a neat, wonderful thing to do, and people could do that by joining the Mahoning Valley Historical Society.
Yes, we are a membership organization. That's a very important part of our operating budget matrix, and we're always looking for people to support us on a membership level, which gives you free admission to our sites all the time, discounts on our events and special programs, and also as a member you vote on changes in the Historical Society's bylaws and election of our board of directors. So it's an important role for our organization, and we certainly invite everybody in the community to take part as a member.
And if you can't join, or if you don't want to join, at least come and visit everything that they have to offer in other places, the Tyler Museum downtown.
Yes, our second site, which has developed more recently, is Tyler Mahoning Valley History Center at 325 West Federal Street. It's a very historic and significant building in its own right, having connections to Harry Burt and the Good Humor ice cream story, which started here in Youngstown in the early 1920s and became a national phenomenon. It had also history behind it from 1935 until 2008 as the home of Ross Radio Company, which was a electronics wholesaler, but also very interesting story in terms of involved in Jewish causes. James and Edith Ross were in their lifetime.
All right, so there's so much to learn, so much to see, and you can never ever go a day without wondering what you could do, because at the museums you could have such a wonderful time, and there's also documents that people could go and research and read and look at and learn from with the Historical Society.
Yes, along with this museum and the History Center and the exhibits and public programs we do there, we have the Historical Society's Archives Resource Center, which is in the basement level at Tyler History Center. And then here on the Arms Family Museum campus, we have the Stewart Media Archive Center, which is in the former carriage house in the back, and that is just a phenomenal collection of our local radio and television broadcasting history that's been compiled mainly through WKBN Broadcasting Corporation, which was one of the earliest stations and the first commercially successful one in 1926, but we've expanded that collection to include information and holdings from a lot of the other radio and television companies here in the Valley.
Alrighty, so Bill, thank you very much, but we're going to now take a tour and show everybody what they could come and see at the 13th Memories of Christmas Past here at the Arms Museum. This is always a great place to see any time of the year, but at Christmas time it gets a little bit special. And we're going to come back with Tracy Manning, and she's going to tell us all about it. Thanks, Bill, for everything, and keep up the good work. You're doing a wonderful job for our community.
Well, thank you, Jeff, and my pleasure to be here with you.
And welcome back. I'm here with Tracy Manning, and you're the curator of Education here at the Arms Family Museum. And this is the 13th Memories of Christmas Past. And this is a special one because COVID took it away from us last year, so you didn't get to see it. And this is such a tradition for people in the Mahoning Valley to come and see people who grew up in Youngstown and all the way around in the valley. They come in here every year. You guys do such a wonderful job in decorating this, but this year has kind of a special significance for you. So tell me a little bit about it.
So we are quite literally coming back to Greystone, which is what we're calling this year's theme. And we're celebrating the house itself and all of this beautiful work that Mrs. Olive Arms did to create this. She was an artist, she trained, and she designed this home. And not just the overall look, but everything from fireplaces to cabinet hinges. Everything was her design. And so we're really trying to honor that spirit of her artistic skills and showing the house how she may have decorated it. So what you're going to see are things from the early 1900s through about 1930s. We even have some of her clothing on display, which really brings each room to life. It's just spectacular.
Coming in the front room where we were with Mr. Lawson a little bit ago, the one mannequin had that lace dress, and it just takes you back to, makes you want to almost be in that room at the time when they were entertaining to see how everybody interacted and how they were dressed.
Exactly. So some of these rooms, you're going to feel like you're walking into a party that Mrs. Arms was having. Or here in this room, the sitting room, you're going to feel like she's just sitting down to have a cup of tea and reading the newspaper. It really feels like you're walking back into people when this house was lived in.
Yeah, and one important thing I want you to cover is that what people are going to see when they come in here, the couches, the carpet, a good majority of it is the actual pieces that were here.
Yeah, so when you take a look in some of the cases, the cabinetry, the curio cabinets, those are all things that belong to the Arms family. And they're all things that have meaning from their travels or from family members. So you really are seeing the house, how Mrs. Arms left it to us at the Historical Society.
I thought one of the really cool things was you have by the fireplace, there's that one little display case there, and you had all the Christmas cards, not all of them that they received, obviously, but a majority of the Christmas cards that they received from way back in the early 20th century. It's incredible to look at those things.
Yeah. So even something like that, we've got a beautiful collection of Christmas cards, and like you said, most of them are to Olive and Wilford, who lived here. So we have their address on an envelope. Yeah. It's something that, maybe when you think about it, you think, oh, anybody would have that, but it really brings it to life. Because, how many of us get holiday cards, and we don't think about keeping the envelope, we don't think about keeping the cards year after year, but she did, and we have that wonderful collection.
And when you pay attention to detail and you see how it was written out on the envelope in the calligraphy, and how much they cared about those little details back then that nowadays everybody's in a rush to do something just to get it done. They didn't do it. They took their time because it meant something to them. They didn't want to present something that didn't look up to their standards.
Exactly. And I think Olive's standards were probably even higher with her skills as an artist. So when you walk through this house, this is really what it would have looked like in that arts and crafts style, the early 20th century. So this is not overdone. This is probably what this home would have looked like with an artist of her talent. And then, of course, having the money that they had to be able to put in things like electric lighting, Christmas lights that were brand new at the time. And she would have been able to do that. So what you're seeing really is what her home may have looked like.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the show, but I want to touch on one thing. It's called Back to Greystone. I didn't even know this, but Greystone is what they called this, their home.
Yeah, so it's tough when you look at the outside of the home today. It looks a little brown. Time has done that, but in this room in particular, you get a sense of what the stone looked like. So this is the original stone to the house, and you can see it's gray, and that is where the home got its name, Greystone. Yeah.
So you're going to pay tribute to that and everything else that was theirs. So now about the show, how many rooms in the house will people be able to go through?
So you're actually going to be able to go through the entire home. Here on the first floor, we have 4 main rooms that are decorated in period style. In addition to the butler's pantry, which that little space is honestly sometimes people's favorite space. We of course have the gift shops. We're going to have multiple gift shops this year. We have one here in the house and then another one over in the carriage house right behind us where you're going to pay your admission. Upstairs, like Bill mentioned, we have all of the history galleries up there focused on our decorative arts past. And then downstairs in our lower level, we're transforming that again into the North Pole. So you're going to be able to take photographs downstairs, sit in our full-size sleigh, have lots of different photo backdrops. We're not going to have the interactive activities just out for people to do this year, but we're going to have bags that families can take home and do their activities at home.
Alrighty, so let's give some dates and times of when it's going to be open and how long it's going to go.
Okay, so we are opening Saturday, November 20th, and we are going to be closing on New Year's Eve, so December 31st. We've got hours Tuesday through Sunday from 12 to 4, and then on the Thursdays we're open. We're going to stay open until 7 o'clock. So I encourage you to come see it in the daylight, but if you're able to come on one of those Thursday evenings, we call them Twilight Thursdays, this house takes on such a different magical look in the dark. So please come out to one of those evening hours that we have.
Alrighty, if you've seen this before, you haven't seen it the way it is this year, so you're definitely going to want to come back. This is really, for our area, a family tradition that you'll come back every year because it changes, the themes change from year to year. Absolutely the best I've seen this year so far out of all the other ones. It's an incredible tour for you to take. The history that you'll learn while you're here is just something you're going to take away with you, and it kind of melts your heart a little bit because it's us. I mean, we're Youngstown, and this is part of us, this home right here. So please come out. It's the 13th Memories of Christmas Past back to Greystone here at the Arms Museum. Could they go online just to get more information?
Yeah, so our website's really easy, mahoninghistory.org. All the information's there, and be sure to follow us on social media too, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're posting lots and lots of updates there as well.
There you go. And you're going to really, really have a good time here. You're going to be able to go through the whole house and enjoy this. If you haven't done it before, come this year. You're going to make it a family tradition. And if you've done it before, come on back because you've not seen it decorated the way it is this year. Tracy, thank you so much for everything you do with this home and the love, obviously, that you have for it. And it shows with the way that it's decorated, which is absolutely incredible. Hopefully, everybody's going to come out and see it this year for you.
So.
All right. You take care and have a great holiday season.
Thank you so much.
All right. That's going to do it for this edition of Out and About. Please come down to the Arms Family Museum and see Back to Greystone this holiday season. It is absolutely incredible. You take care, have a great holiday, and we're going to talk to you again real soon.